From the creators of Relevant Magazine, this is the Relevant Podcast.
On the streets, 3 times this week. New threats, new love. If this gets us to our feet and grow, who knows?
It's Friday, February 28th. The year is 2020, and you are listening to the Relevant Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Huckabee. I'm here in Nashville, Tennessee. Joining us in our Orlando studios, back from assignment to contain the coronavirus. We sent him out there. I haven't heard a sit rep yet, but I assume it was another smashing success from our man on the ground. It's our illustrious producer, Chandler Strang.
Hello.
Meanwhile, up there in Loveland, Virginia, he's like the rest of us are grateful to have been insulated from the outbreak. It's our friend Jesse Carey.
Hello.
And we're it today, but we've got a good one for you. We've got we're being joined by a friend of ours. In a little bit, we're going to bring you Kristian Stanfill. He's from Passion Music. They have a brand new live album out. It's called Roar. It's this really super cool story. It was actually Roar is a live album. They weren't planning on releasing this one to the public, but he kind of walks me through the process of how they decided to do it anyway. They called an audible on this one, and I enjoyed talking to him. Looking forward to bringing you that full story.
Passion Music on the hot route. I think
they zigged when they thought they were going to zag.
They should have named the album Hot Route. I think Hot Route would be a great band name, by the way. Anything with hot in the name is cool. Chandler, you, speaking of hot places, you just returned from Austin, Texas, did you not?
Yep.
And the purpose of this mission, of this visit to Austin, which is a cool city. I mean, you can go there with no plans or intentions, still have a great time. But you went to go get some fresh ink from some tattoo artists that were in town. So my question to you is, how does your Yang Gang 2024 tattoo, how does it come out?
It's healing up, doing pretty well.
I saw some cool photos on Instagram. They look good.
Yeah,
they do.
thanks.
It looks nice.
Thanks,
it looks nice.
thanks.
I'm jealous.
Explain the actual ink you got. Starting with the American flag and ending with the bald eagle with the Declaration of Independence in its beak.
Well, I mean, if you're going to get that sort of thing, the best place to go is Texas. So that was kind of
live free.
They don't even need a in Texas. Tattoo artists don't even need a license. They just pull up a bar.
Can you do an American flag?
You just go to a restaurant. They just meet you in the booth and get to work while you eat. It's like you said. They don't even have health codes down there. It's not a big deal.
Steak and eggs, and you just hold one arm out while you're shoveling scrambled eggs and steak down your gullet with the other one. That's the Texas way.
Well, yeah, I picture all tattoos take place in like saloons there. You know what I mean? Like you walk in, like Chandler walks in to get his tattoo, and there's someone like playing one of those old timey pianos and like a bunch of rough looking characters engaged in a poker game. You know, a couple of people slinked over the bar, and as soon as he walks in those saloon doors with his sleeves rolled up to get his tattoo, like the music just stops and, you know, chairs creak and everyone looks back and they see Chandler, and then he leaves and then goes get his tattoo somewhere else. So it was a good move leaving that city.
I've been thinking about this for a while. Have you, Chandler? You might be the person to ask about this because you've done some traveling for your tattoo work. Yep. I'm starting to consider the possibility of a cover up.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's dig into this.
You know, it's been a few years, and I don't think me and Laura are getting back together. No, that's not true. I think that I have a your
Gary Johnson. Your Gary Johnson political tattoo is not aging well.
He had some real momentum at the time.
He was going up against two of the most unlikable candidates in history. He had a shot, but didn't even know what the city of Aleppo was. That's a dated political.
It's a tattoo that I got just last week. Bloomberg paid me $3,000,
and it says Mike will get it done. It says Mike will get it done.
Money.
And if for some reason, Michael Bloomberg is unable to buy the presidency of the United States, you can tell people that tattoo is referring to a different Mike that also is very productive.
to my uncle Mike Huckabee, a man who has always gotten it done.
To be fair, he gets it done too. You know?
No, I got one of my like an early tattoo. It's I just have a tree, like a rootless tree, and the roots are getting just a little bit out of whack. They just haven't grown super well. Mm-hmm. So I'm starting to think about what a cover up would look like, but I don't even know what goes into that, and if it like what sort of I have no idea what the process behind getting a cover up is, or how elaborate tattoo artists can get with their cover up situations.
I think most artists can do cover ups. I think it costs more if you get it covered up.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Good.
But I think there are maybe certain ones that specialize in that sort of thing.
Yeah. Tyler, sorry, real quick, explain to me what you want to get covered up.
Well, so on my forearm, I have a tattoo of a tree. And you can see,
I'm familiar with
and
this.
You can see the exposed roots of the tree at the bottom near my wrist. And it's getting to the point now. I apologize. I know this is sort of a visual slice, but it's getting to the point now where the roots sort of look like flames, like the tree is like a rocket ship blasting.
Now, is this because of how the ink is like settling onto your skin, or are you just recognizing the flaw in the artwork?
I'm going to say it's a little bit of both. I'm going to say it's a combination.
Here's what happened, Tyler. Someone saw the roots poking through your sleeves. They're like, cool flame tattoo, bro. Right? That's what happened.
I think that every time. But I don't know what to do. I don't know what the alternative is. Like, what else do trees have at the bottom of them besides roots? There's not a whole lot of other directions that I could go with it.
It's a rocket tree.
So you want the whole, I got an idea. Flames and a rocket ship. and just SpaceX. I'm a big SpaceX guy, man. I think Musk is taking us to Mars.
You're saying steer into the swerve? Just like, okay, it's a rocket ship now.
Yeah, all of a sudden you're the guy with a SpaceX tattoo, which people will probably think you're involved with it. They're like, this guy's probably got like Tesla money. So, why else would he get a SpaceX tattoo if he's not involved in rocketry, you know?
Well, it could also be a Space Force thing. It could be like, this is my application to join the armed forces, both at home and abroad and very abroad.
Of the sky. Yeah. So Tyler, so what it's not a beef with the tree. What is the tree symbol? Like, I could probably assume, but is the tree because you have other tattoos?
I do.
And most of them are referencing some artifact of pop
I don't
culture.
just get it just to get them. There's always a little something going on. And this one was actually, this tree was actually, it came from Me Without You album cover. It's from the Brother Sister artwork.
Yeah.
Oh, great album.
Maybe, hey, didn't you recently talk to Aaron Weiss?
I did. I had a conversation with Aaron. I had a couple of conversations with Aaron.
Did you ask him about this? He's the lead singer of Me Without You.
That's not something you do. You know, you can't do that. You can't like tell these guys like, because I'm interviewing him in a professional capacity, and as soon as you start sounding, it's always, especially when you really like the person you're talking to, which I really do like Me Without You. As soon as you start fanboying, I feel like you lose the plot right away. Something changes in the conversation, and it feels like a very different sort of interview than it was. So I did not bring up the fact that I have a tattoo that was inspired by one of his albums. Although I guess cat's out of the bag now, if he's listening.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so let me ask this. Are you considering because I agree, if you're just doing the roots, the only option is a giant, Chandler, you'll know what this is. You're into plant stuff. Just if he does a giant root ball at the bottom, as if someone had pulled the tree out of the earth, but had the intention of repotting it somewhere, like a big root. So you could do root ball.
So a root bound, potted tree, I guess. Is that what
like
you're
a
saying?
like a potted oak.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
Okay.
so the options are either rocket ship, root ball, tree,
You see my problem.
gorgeous tree with giant root ball, or just a gigantic portrait that will cover your entire forearm, right?
Yeah, like cover the whole entire situation.
And people will be like, hey, what does it mean? And you're like, well, faith is a journey upward
into the stars.
in a rocket. And you're like, listen, it was either this or a big root ball. Okay. Start with a rocket. Who cares what it means? A root ball wouldn't have been any better.
Well, Jen, I didn't mean to hijack your tattoo because your tattoos do look very good, and I hope I trust they're healing up nicely.
And Tyler, unlike you, because Tyler, I think you used the words, I don't just get them. Like yours have intricate literary references and meanings behind them. Chandler, you on the other hand,
intricate. One of them's of Captain America. So.
You do
It's
kind
not
of
Chaucer or anything.
Chandler. You have like C.S. Lewis tattoos, right?
I do. That's true.
So
That's true.
Chandler, unlike Tyler, I think it's fair to say you do just get them, right? Because I talked to you before you left for the trip. I said, "What are you getting?" And your response was, "I don't know."
Yeah.
Tell us real quick your process for selecting a tattoo.
It's artist based. So I go to an artist that I like their style and I like the things that they make. And I'm more focused on what they want to tattoo rather than having an idea with the backstory in advance.
Yeah, you just
it's more
invent
like
your
an
own.
art collection thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What if they're like, hey man, this is what I feel like expressing, and it's something that you would not want on your body forever. Would you avoid the awkwardness of telling him that you don't like his art? Or would you just be like, well, this is an awkward situation, and the only way to get out of it is to get that Tasmanian devil tattoo?
If it looks good, then sure, I'd get Tasmanian devil. I guess.
Well, cool.
Okay,
well,
how about that? If there was one for you guys, if there was one pop culture, we'll say oeuvre, like you can't get specific with it. It has to be like Walt Disney animation or Looney Tunes or Warner Brothers. Like it has to be big, and you can just go to the tattoo artist and you say, I want you to pick something from blank. What do you go with? What's the safest bet?
I think Space Jam is the.
It's weird you say that, dude. I was gonna say Space Jam too, because the Space Jam was on TV the other night. It's actually Tyler, we're putting together. Like I was watching Space Jam on TV the other night, and Tyler, you and I are working on a listicle that'll be up maybe even today when people listen to this about the new things coming to Netflix in March. We do this every month,
right? Sure.
And Space Jam is coming to March, so I feel like
sick.
a new generation is on the cusp of discovering Space Jam, and having like a funny Bill Murray playing basketball tattoo, I could live with that. I could do that.
Me too.
A big chess piece of
That's kind of interesting because we keep hearing rumors of Space Jam 2 allegedly starring LeBron. Like every now and then when we're like combing, Jesse and Eric coming for pop culture slices, I see another piece of news about how LeBron's on board and they've
KD,
got the Looney Tunes gang is ready to line up and start doing that. But the last thing I heard, and I started thinking about this a little bit, the last thing I heard is LeBron's having trouble getting some of his colleagues in the NBA because per the original Space Jam movie, there needs to be, you can't just get Michael. You've got to get I forget who the rest of the Mountain Stars were, but they had a pretty decent
Toon Squad.
pretty decent lineup.
The Toon Squad.
Muggsy Bogues.
Yeah, and Muggsy was in it. I can't remember everybody who was in this. It's been a while.
So why is he having trouble recruiting his fellow NBA stars?
Here's my theory.
Because I have one too
about it. Okay, my theory is because the entire movie sort of hinges on Michael Jordan by himself being superior to an entire other team of NBA players. So if he's going to, I don't know who would be next. Steph,
KD, Anthony Davis,
What LeBron is basically trying to say is, I need you guys to prove that you are collectively inferior to me before the entire world and to be humiliated by a bunch of cartoon characters.
I mean, but that's assuming it's like a straight up remake, not a sequel, right?
That is the assumption.
I have a more depressing theory, because my theory is this: like, I think for a certain generation, Space Jam was very cool, right? And it and for a certain generation, remember seeing it in the theater. I would say about 40% of my friends growing up had a Space Jam poster in their room at some point. You know, I can still picture a couple, like a poster of like Michael Jordan flying through outer space, dunking it. That was in a lot. Like the posters that were in a lot of my friends' rooms in that era, like they were like Bo Jackson with like football pads and a baseball bat in black and white. Like, there were just certain posters showed up. So like Space Jam was part of like this cultural awareness, and I think LeBron is about 35 years old, 35 or 36, right? So he that puts him in the prime spot to have seen that movie at the most formative point in his childhood. To LeBron,
for sure,
someone in his mid 30s, Space Jam was a very cool and very important movie. A lot of the other guys in the NBA right now who are the big names, Luka Doncic, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Zion, like a lot of the guys that you would say, okay, these NBA players need to be in the movie for it to work, because these are sort of like the young generation of superstars. Sure. A lot of those guys Zion is 19. Like
not going to have a lot of
Joel
attachment to the
Embiid
Space
is
Jam.
Probably 23.
Space Jam franchise.
Luka Doncic, I think he's still a teenager. So like a lot of these guys probably, Space Jam might as well be like a Turner movie classic. Like I think it wasn't a big deal to them. I think it's the generational divide that is making some of these young guys not all that enthused, because I could see that. But I do have a alternative. I have a solution. Okay. I think this is an easy fix. Because it was on the other night, and my son's only 6, but he had no idea who Bugs Bunny was. Like, I don't even know if people today. I don't even know if a lot of people even know Looney Tunes anymore. I can't even remember the last time I've seen Looney Tunes in the wild. I can't even remember.
And we can fix that. Okay. We can fix that. And here's the simple solution: call up Phil Vischer. You get Big Idea on board, and instead of the Looney Tunes, the Veggie Tale cast is our new avenue, our new medium for this.
Veggie Jam.
The Veggie Jam. LeBron gets sucked into the Veggie cinematic universe, and then you got Bob and Larry and the rest of the. There's more. I think there's an asparagus of some kind, and those are the kids love the Veggie Tales. I think they just they just re-upped them, and in addition, now you can get Steph Curry's production company involved, because I know he's trying to do some more family friendly, faith based stuff. This is an obvious one. You bring out the Christian / sports demo is basically the entirety of America. That's a Venn diagram. That's a circle.
Well, listen, and there's a bonus, because if for some reason Veggie Jam fails to make its money back at the box office, you have a great name for a vegan preserves company. Ooh, I'll have a slice of toast with some Veggie Jam on it.
The marketing tie-ins take care of themselves.
It sounds disgusting. Veggie Jam sounds absolutely repulsive. But if you've bought the name, you might as well roll the dice on it.
Gotta make it back somehow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got a lot to get to today. We're talking to Kristian Stanfill down the road. We've already covered the tattoos. Stay with us. When we come back, we're doing the hot list.
You need a season your chicken. We ain't like them folks in here. Sometimes you fight with the Bible. Sometimes it's carrying shells. This family kicking a bell. I celebrate cause I'm well. I thank the Lord cause it's sunny. And I wish enemies well. I love that soul food adobo. A little mixed with sancocho. That mashed up plantain mofongo. That arroz chicken and pollo. I pour libations and soyo. It's 3 leches.
You're listening to Soul Food y Abodo by Princess Nokia. Beginning of the podcast, you heard New Low by Sarah Harmer. Today's podcast is brought to you by BetterHelp. Is there something that interferes with your happiness or is preventing you from achieving your goals? BetterHelp Online Counseling is there for you. Now you can connect with your professional counselor in a safe and private online environment. It's so convenient. You can Get help on your own time and at your own pace. You can schedule secure video or phone sessions, plus chat and text with your therapist. Licensed professional counselors are available who are specialized in depression, anxiety, sleep issues, grief, family issues, and more. BetterHelp has 3,000 licensed therapists across all 50 states. And of course, if you're not happy with your counselor for any reason, you can request a new one at any time, and everything you share is confidential. Best of all, this is a truly affordable option. The Relevant Podcast listeners get 10% off their first month with discount code RELEVANT. So why not get started today? Go to betterhelp.com/relevant. Simply fill out the questionnaire to help them assess your needs and get matched with a counselor you'll love. That's betterhelp.com/relevant. Okay. It is time for our weekly look back at our favorite news stories that came across our desk this week. It's time for...
It's the hot list, the hot list. It's sizzling.
Number 5 this week. This is an interesting story.
This is if we've ever done a piece of content on this show that is literally perfect for you. Like it checks.
It's a cross section of my fields of expertise.
Yeah, it checks the significant boxes in your life that don't involve tattoos with literary references or turn into poorly drawn rocket ships. This is it. This is the item.
All right. So number 5 this week, and this isn't a daisy fresh story, but I was reminded of it this week, and it was fun to do a little bit of research on. Amy Grant's dust up with Marvel Comics got renewed attention this week. I need to give credit to a Twitter user, Wesley Wilcox was the one who reminded me of this week over Twitter. Thanks, Wes. So in a nearly forgotten piece of comic book / CCM history, there's not that many of those stories, but in a nearly forgotten one, in one of the 3 or so, Marvel got in trouble for using Amy Grant's likeness as Doctor Strange's love interest. The year was 1990. This was long before Marvel became the movie studio that it is today. And Doctor Strange was sort of a B-level character, C-level character maybe at the time. Didn't have any movies, and Benedict Cumberbatch was pretty young himself. At the time, a Marvel artist named Jackson Guice was drawing Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme, along with writer duo Roy and Dan Thomas. In this particular story, Doctor Strange was tangling with some sort of vampire club, I think, and an ex-girlfriend of his with the name Morgana Blessing got involved.
Morgana Blessing.
What
a name. What a name.
Classic name. Now, for the cover of this comic, Guice used Amy Grant as a model for Morgana. In fact, he used the cover of her greatest hits album, The Collection, from 1986. And if you see the two of them side by side, we got them posted at Relevant, you can definitely say it's not subtle. It's very much it's very obviously just a picture that was drawn from the cover of The Collection. And even if you go into the interior panels, they don't use any album covers inside the comic, but you can definitely see that Amy Grant was the model for Morgana Blessing. Now, this isn't actually that unusual. Comic book artists often use other photos and models and other comics as inspirations, but Grant's management team got wind and they weren't happy. Mike Blanton and Dan Harrell contacted Marvel to warn them of an impending complaint. They were concerned. They didn't actually even have the copyright to the photo. They were concerned about the mystical overtones of Doctor Strange's adventures, which they said ran contrary to Grant's wholesome image. They were concerned that it would look like Grant was condoning Doctor Strange's magical hijinks. And the complaint itself said, quote, "Many fans of Christian music consider interest in witchcraft and the occult to be antithetical to their Christian beliefs and to the message of Christian music in general. Therefore, an association of Amy Grant or her likeness with Doctor Strange is likely to cause irreparable injury to Grant's reputation and goodwill." The case was settled out of court, and while the issue is still digitally available on Marvel's website, the image of Morgana is obscured from the cover.
All right. Okay. So all this is interesting, but here's my question. Do you think deep down, Amy Grant now, regrets this a little, because it would have been very
interesting.
cool
Yeah.
for her to be Doctor Strange's love interest or former love, or just a character in the MCU. Because, if Morgana shows up in one of the movies,
Which she may very well.
they're digging pretty deep
works.
now. They're on movie like 35. Like they're really. I mean, Ant-Man has 2 movies. It's not a total stretch to think Morgana Blessing could show up. They really are digging deep for these characters. Amy Grant could have been in the MCU.
She could have been. Yeah, it could have been and if nothing else, how cool would it be to, for her to be like one of those movies, like there's a lot of cross promotion there. Amy Grant could get out ahead of the next Doctor Strange movie but now sour grapes.
Short-sighted.
And I think what's also weird about this is this happened in 1990, and the idea of Amy Grant having irreparable harm done to her wholesome image, she was doing that on her own by crossing over to the belly of the beast, the mainstream pop music situation.
I heard her on my local 94.9 The Point, today's hits. What was she doing on there? If she cared,
you want to talk about
a Christian
irreparable
image.
harm. Irreparable harm is when you show up on Billboard, is when Casey Kasem mentions baby,
Irreparable
baby.
harm. You sang baby, baby, you put my heart in motion. Not even Solomon would have written something so salacious as a heart in motion.
and how like what do you think they do at the Marvel Comics offices when they get a complaint like that? Somebody saying you can't do it, and they're like, are you serious about this?
Yeah.
It's kind of such an eye roll moment where something that seems like some kind of of course somebody's mad about this thing. The one time we use Amy Grant.
One time we put a Christian singer in a comic book about witchcraft. The one time. And they get all bent out of shape about it. Well, what could have been? I would see, listen, it's not too late to right this wrong. I would see Amy Grant in the next Doctor Strange film. Cast her, make let's
her in the movie.
Some revisionist history here.
Let bygones be bygones. It's already the case in my head canon. I'm up here, up in the old noggin. Amy Grant is the love interest. Just make it real. How hard could it be?
Chandler, this is not an exaggeration. If you had to list Tyler's top 10 greatest heroes, the list would be real life people and fictional, and both Doctor Strange and Amy Grant would be on that list. So this is very cool for him. This is extremely cool.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange didn't even make my Marvel tattoo, so I don't know that holds up. And I don't have an Amy Grant tattoo yet, but maybe she could be at the bottom of the tree. Maybe she could be like holding it on her back, like it's brand.
Like Atlas.
I'll work on that. I'll work on that. Exactly. Yeah. I'll work on it. Okay, number 4 this week.
You should just be the cover of that comic as just like, hey, remember this?
Oh, that's a good idea, like a wraparound for the sleeve or something like that. Yeah, I guess we could do that. Although I might get a complaint. I don't want to get the suits over there.
If Amy Grant is worried about the association with a character who has some mystical undertones, she's definitely not going to be like being on the arm of Tyler Huckabee. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
that's
what can we do about that complaint? Is she going to pay for the cover up?
That's an association that's gonna irreparable
Number
damage.
4 this week. Mark Wahlberg explained what he's giving up for Lent. So. Lent began on Ash Wednesday this week, and like millions of people all over the world, Mark Wahlberg began his observation. And instead of giving up things for Lent, he actually says he plans on doing more. Here is a clip of Mark Wahlberg explaining his Lenten plans.
People always ask, what are you going to give up for Lent? And I think more importantly, let's try to do more. More love, more peace, more acceptance, more caring, and more kindness. Have a beautiful Lenten season. God bless you all. I'll see you on Easter. Love you.
And I saw actually this, his Mark Wahlberg's famous schedule got a lot of attention. This started getting passed around on the internet again. Yeah. That's something that we have some expertise in. Wahlberg spoke to Relevant last year and explained that he does indeed get up at 2:30 every morning to spend time in prayer. He said, quote, "There are so many things that I think about, that I pray about, those that are less fortunate, those that don't have God in their life, and all the responsibilities that I have as a husband, as a father. There are a lot of things that I need help and guidance on. I can lock in on what's important and what I need to focus on, and then especially express my gratitude."
Tyler, I know this is sort
That
of
was-
this is sort of
Go ahead.
it breaks some professional coda among journalists, particularly journalists who do a lot of profiles and things. But I want to talk about behind the scenes about the personalities of the subjects, right? Like a good profile should communicate everything you want to know. But
I always try to, within reason, yeah.
But let me just ask this. Rank the intensity, because people can hear in that clip of Mark Wahlberg talking. He's not shouting, but he's not shouting, right? Like
His eyes are shouting,
yeah,
in a way that his volume is not. Yeah,
his eyes and the arms and the veins in his biceps are shouting at you, no matter what he's saying in his Boston accent. But tell me how rank of all the interviews he's done. Where does he rank in terms of intense people you've talked to?
He would not rank high, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because he sounded like a guy who got up at 2:30 in the morning.
He was half asleep when he talked.
It was already like I respect his commitment to this, and but if I thought he was exaggerating when I heard about his schedule, when I saw the Instagram, if I thought that maybe he was kind of like stretching the truth a little bit, I was corrected of that assumption during our interview, because I remember very clearly he sounded like it was like 2 p.m, and he sounded like he was dragging himself.
Listen,
I don't think it was my lack of scintillating conversation.
Yeah,
I think he was tired.
Well, here's the thing: if it was 2:00 p.m, if I'm remembering his viral schedule well enough, that means he has already been up for approximately 17 hours, played golf 3 times, spent 4 hours in a cryogenic chamber, and prayed for 2 hours, and then had dinner with his kids. And it was only 2 p.m, so I get why he's tired. But anyway, it's cool. It is cool to see him.
It's cool what he's doing.
Yeah, it's cool to see him like in all seriousness, it's cool that he's so open about his faith, and especially in recent years, and how he has this kind of like Hollywood persona as sort of this, tough guy, action movie dude, very irreverent. And, his sort of off-screen persona more and more seems to be, based on faith, based on values, based on his family, and based on charity work. So it is cool to see. Good for Mark Wahlberg. Good for Marky Mark.
But I'll tell you what was intense about Mark Wahlberg. On the video itself, the cross that he got, I don't know if the celebs can afford like a more intense cross. But that was like a Kylie Jenner swatch. That was like it was very clear. It looked like black paint. I don't know what they were burning.
I don't know what they burned for that. Yeah,
seriously, it was like like 2 marks, like ka-chunk across his forehead.
Yeah.
That priest really went for it.
Yeah, well,
must be some YouTube clip.
Mark Wahlberg does not take half measures. What if Mark Wahlberg's doing something? He's going all the way, including if he's like, I'm going to get up early today. That means he's getting up at 11:30 p.m. That's when his day started.
He's not going to bed.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, number 3 this week. YouTubers Rhett and Link opened up about their own faith deconstruction process. So Rhett and Link's YouTube channel, which hosts their daily show Good Mythical Morning, boasts more than 16 million subscribers. They're regulars on The Tonight Show, but before they moved to LA and became TV and internet stars, they worked at the student ministry Crew. This week, they sat down with fellow YouTuber Philip DeFranco to talk about their own deconstruction and what it was like publicly wrestling with doubt. Here is a clip.
I know what people are going to think. They're going to think that you guys moved to Los Angeles and you lost your faith. Big surprise. Happens all the time. Tried to be very clear about the fact that this process had started and almost completely finished when I was in North Carolina. Still completely embedded in a Christian community. Still leading a Bible study at my church. You know what I'm saying? And still the deconstruction had basically happened. So kind of made that clear. But that it doesn't really matter because we're still getting lots of people saying that. And so you kind of just like, I think a lot of the comments, and I remember this feeling this way, or kind of now looking back in retrospect to the way that we treated people who sort of deconstructed or left the faith. What we had to say to them was a lot more about our own fear and our own insecurity. In fact, I haven't even told you this story, but we've got a good friend who had sort of a public deconstruction, and somebody wrote one of these sort of like Christian hit pieces on him to kind of basically try to find where he went wrong and what was wrong with his motivations and his process and his heart that led him to this place. And then after the article came out, he got a direct message from the dude who wrote the article, who was basically like, hey man, I'm actually a big fan of yours and I don't believe this anymore either.
What? But he wrote the hit piece?
Yes. And so it's you know what? It's not surprising at all. It's not surprising at all, because in so many of the critical, sort of dismissive and judgmental responses that I see, I can actually see my former self in those, struggling and trying to talk to myself to try to justify where I'm at.
Okay, so a lot to unpack there, right?
For sure.
By the way, I do have a hunch who he's talking about there, but I'm not gonna openly speculate. But I have a pretty.
I kind of have a hunch too. We're probably all thinking the same.
I'm
person.
almost certain I know who it is, but that's not important. If he wanted to reveal that person's name, he would have. So,
right.
But you know, The moment we're in right now, where people are having a lot of very public conversations about deconstruction, like basically kind of deconstructing the faith and value systems that they grew up with, often kind of looking at what they taught and some of the values that they were taught very critically, and trying to understand what they now believe is a process that, I mean, that's a pretty fair summation of what of how you would define deconstruction, right, Tyler?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so, we've kind of had this moment where a lot of people have been publicly talking about their own deconstruction and what they no longer believe about their upbringings. This is especially prominent in evangelical culture right now. So I'm not saying that deconstruction doesn't happen among people who kind of grew up in mainline denominations. It certainly does. But I think right now it's sort of this trend in evangelicalism, to the point where we saw it, we saw it earlier this year with Joshua Harris, who, famously was a pastor, but most famously wrote the book, I Kiss Dating Goodbye. He actually, not only has been going through years long deconstruction, I don't think, I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but I don't think he any longer considers himself a Christian. Or at least it doesn't adhere to the modern kind of understanding of what a Christian believes. He made
it pretty clear he wouldn't use that language.
Yeah. There was also, a prominent a worship leader. I can't remember who he used to write songs. It might have been, I think it was Marty Sampson, who used to write songs for Hillsong.
I think you're right.
Publicly posted a lot of his doubts about faith. So there's all these big examples of people kind of walking through their deconstruction process in a very public way. And the underlying point that Rhett and Link are making in this interview, in this clip, even though I think obviously, we are Christians and we maintain, I don't want to speak for you guys, but, a somewhat orthodox view of the gospel. I'm sure all of us have had pretty radical evolutions from what our faith looked like as children to what it looked like now. But, I'm not saying that losing your faith is good, but I do think their underlying point is a positive one, which is it's better to talk openly about this stuff than to feel like you can't talk about it and then secretly behind the scenes harbor your own doubts and harbor your own questions, but always be too afraid to ask because you'd be concerned about what kind of judgment you'd receive. I think it's better to talk about things than to hide it and secretly harbor fear of what the results of actually communicating those questions and doubt would be. Tyler, do you agree with me there?
I of course do. And I think they're highlighting at a different problem, and we're all, and this is one that it's kind of hard for us to talk about a little bit, but it's important to get through it. I think when you start talking about things like what Rhett and Link are here, what some of these other individuals that you mentioned, Jesse, as examples are, when these people who have doubts or are going through some sort of deconstruction process, which I think can often be very healthy, and I think we've all gone through versions of it ourselves on this podcast. When you are in vocational ministry, it gets so much more complicated because then you're having to choose. These people, I feel like, and in many cases correctly so, They have to choose between being honest about some of their spiritual questions and the ways they feel like God might be taking their spiritual life, and sometimes a job, putting food on the table, health insurance. These are real issues that people have. I remember speaking with the writer of The Shack, William Paul Young. Yeah. And he says that he thinks the most powerful hermeneutic in America is job security, because even if you have your interpretation of the Bible, when you get into places of vocational ministry, it is so dependent, both whether from a board or from people who are buying your stuff or from a consumer base. They have such strong ideas about what they want from you, that's not bad, right? That's what they signed you up for. That's why they hired you. That's why they buy your stuff. I'm not saying this is malicious on their part, but it does create some really complicated moral quandaries for these people. And I don't know what the answer is there. I don't know that we have a good one.
Yeah. I mean, you hear a lot of these stories of someone saying, I was a pastor and I was preaching every Sunday, but I didn't know deep down if I still believed in God.
Happens all the time.
And they have no one to talk to. And what happens is, people can't live in that sort of cognitive dissonance forever, and the ways that often comes to a head is a lot of times unhealthy, where instead of just feeling like it's safe to engage doubt, because doubt, I don't think is a bad thing. Jesus welcomed questions. He often forced people to question their own beliefs and values. Like that was often, who do you say I am? He was totally comfortable with people going through some degree of self-analysis, like that was an important part of his way of teaching. And when that's completely discouraged, or you're financially incentivized not to even address those things, it can create a huge problem. And I think it has created a huge problem, Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not sure, like I said, I don't know what the solution is there, other than for these people who are in, for pastors, ministers, missionary people who are in this, to have people outside of your profession who are not in your congregations, who are not your bosses or your professional colleagues, that you can safely go to talk about these things with. Because I think what's going to happen, like you alluded to, Jesse, is these doubts, unprocessed, undiscussed, unexplored doubt is just going to breed and become something that's maybe not as healthy. That's maybe less good and can end up toxifying the entire belief system in ways that you don't really intend it to, and that won't be honest or true to the experience of doubt.
Yeah, and the other side of it too is if churches and leaders discourage a sort of deconstruction process for people, I don't know how healthy they can expect a reconstruction to be. And what I mean by that is, kind of the next, I think, Tyler, you actually, I was a couple years ago, you had an interesting conversation with Richard Rohr about this, which was, I know we had published. And remind me again, what are the stages that he kind of says that a lot of people should go through in the context of deconstruction?
Yeah, well, he says after the construction process comes obviously the deconstruction process. And then a lot of people stop there. Yeah, that's the only thing that ever happens to him. And he noted that people who tend to be more conservative get stuck in the construction process, and people who are more liberal tend to get stuck in the deconstruction process. But there's more. That hopefully, ideally, you move on to a reconstruction process where you're putting things back together and you're sifting through the things that were handed to you, some of the new information you've picked up, and building something new. And then there is eventually what at the time, and I think he sort of changed a little bit about his verbiage around this since then. But at the time, there was what was called the integration process, where a lot of because during Reconstruction, what tends to happen is you find yourself believing a lot of things that don't seem like they can both be true at the same time. They're held in a lot of tension with each other.
Paradox.
Yeah, there's a lot of cognitive dissonance when you're reconstructing, but then eventually, and this is only, I think you have to live to be pretty old and be pretty rigorous about this process to get to this point where you get to a point where you start to be able to hold these things a little more easily than you did when you first picked them up. I do feel like, and I actually heard about this in church just last Sunday, the pastor was talking a little bit about how there might be a newer, better way to think about this. And he compared it actually, and I like this metaphor a lot. I'd like to talk to somebody a little more about it, or maybe I should talk to my pastor. We'll see. About the process of thinking of it as, instead of building and tearing down and rebuilding, thinking of it a little more as a garden, something that isn't so man-made and so foreign to to your own natural growth as a person, but tending things and letting them grow and pruning things and rebearing them sometimes and letting it mulch and come back and compost and he said that process feels a little more natural to the human experience instead of this building and unbuilding and building again that we're talking about.
It feels like growth. It feels like, you're growing and evolving and changing as things in, God's created order naturally do, but I do think, kind of sticking to that metaphor of deconstruction, I also think part of the fear that a lot of people have when it comes to conversations about deconstructions that Rhett and Link alluded to in this clip is that deconstruction always means burning it to the ground. Right. Yeah,
exactly.
But it doesn't have to be that.
No,
it can be. It
doesn't have to be.
Yeah, it certainly can be. But you could have grown up in a church setting and you want to kind of rejudicate some of the things that you taught that no longer mesh with your value system. You can, without raising the house to the ground, right? Like, you can keep the foundation. You can even keep a lot of the rooms, but maybe there's certain areas that do need to be kind of torn down to the studs and kind of reimagined and reconstructed in a way that is more, intellectually honest to what you now believe. But I think, the danger is what they're alluding to, where these conversations aren't allowed to happen, period. That's when things, I think, get very unhealthy. So I'm glad they're having the conversation.
I am too.
And hopefully they're able to, come to an understanding about faith that is positive. But I think the conversation ultimately is good for people,
I think it is too. And I think it's important to create more of an awareness around some of these ideas, because I do think there's a lot, and I see this a lot in conversations around belief and non-belief, that treat the whole thing sort of as a binary, like, why am I not a Christian? Because I don't believe in a magical man in the sky who gives me a bunch of rules so that I can go to heaven when I die. And I'm like, well, I don't believe in that either, but that doesn't, but I still use the word Christian for what I do believe. So if you would if we could talk about this, then I think I can show you a new way of thinking about the faith, which isn't your fault. Like, you were handed this idea of Christianity that is very prominent in pop culture, that is not accurate. And I'm not saying that you have to believe what I believe, but I hope you know that there's a gradient between what you're talking about and non-belief. It's not a light switch that you flip on and off.
Yeah, for sure. So
and conversations like what Rhett and Link are doing here are helpful for that. Number 2 this week, two kind of superhero stories in the line of the, and I didn't put this together, Jesse. This is all on you.
Well, that's right. Big week, man.
Big week for Tyler Huckabee. So following The Watchmen, the Tulsa Race Massacre will be part of Oklahoma schools' curriculum. So in 1921, over Memorial Day weekend, a mob of thousands of white men, including police officers and members of the KKK, stormed an affluent black neighborhood in Tulsa, attacking black people, looting their businesses, and firebombing their homes. The incident is now known as the Tulsa Race Massacre. It left between 100 and 300 people dead and over 10,000 black people homeless. It was, according to the Encyclopedia of Oklahoma History, the single worst incident of racial violence in American history. Yet, American history books have largely downplayed it or scrubbed the event altogether. But the Tulsa Race Massacre has been a subject of renewed scrutiny lately, largely thanks to its depiction in the pilot episode of HBO's Watchmen series. Now, Oklahoma itself is opening up to this ugly chapter of its history and will include the event in its curriculum framework. State Superintendent Joy Hoffmeister said in a news conference, quote, "What we want to ensure is that we are teaching in a grade appropriate level those facts that have not been taught in a way they should have been taught in Oklahoma. This is our history and we should know it. At a news conference, Tulsa Mayor G.T. Bynum explained that the decision is so important because, quote, this isn't something that you just read about in history books and think that's something that happened 100 years ago. It can never happen again. That's exactly what people in 1921 in Tulsa probably thought too. It's a really chilling final sentence from the mayor there. I mean, good on him for recognizing the gravity of the situation. But
yeah,
but
and it's taken 100 years. But at least that the city is finally recognized, or the state is finally recognized in their education curriculum. And it also goes to show the power of when people in pop culture make bold decisions to expose injustices. I mean, after that episode of the Watchmen premiered recently on HBO, the Tulsa Race Massacre was trending on Twitter. A lot of people for the first time were exposed to these atrocities and were taught a very painful but important history lesson. So it is interesting to see how all of this culminated with something pretty meaningful, which is this event getting back in, history textbooks where it belongs.
It's so interesting to see. And I think that it's really easy for us in America to sort of point the finger at other regimes for certain types of ideologies that are passed down or sort of revisionist history. We see it very clearly from America. It's easy to see it when you're not living in the country itself, right? It's easy to be judgmental in a way that is valid, but it's much harder to recognize that we here in the States have our own sort of revisionist histories that are passed down to us. And the only way to correct those things is for, like you said, Jesse, for people who know the real history to make those bold decisions. And especially when, if you haven't seen The Watchmen, that was an incredibly powerful depiction that it showed, like just a real masterclass in great filmmaking. Yeah. And I think it'd be hard to watch that and not to come away moved by it. I was aware of something called the Tulsa Race Massacre. Could not have told you any details about it before I looked into it after seeing that episode. So that's cool. That is cool. It's a good news story from the American education system. We could use a few more of those. And number one this week, John Krasinski said he would be totally down for an Office reunion. So Krasinski has gone on to become kind of an action star. He's in Jack Ryan and 13 Hours, and he's also an acclaimed filmmaker. He's directing the Quiet Place franchise. He was asked by Entertainment Weekly about the possibility of reuniting with old castmates. He said he'd absolutely love to, and he wants to see a reboot. He said, quote, "The Office was absolutely everything to me. I mean, it is my beginning and my end. I'm pretty sure at the end of my career, I'll still be known for Jim. That was my first experience in Hollywood. It was the first creative family I ever had. In many ways, they will always be the most important people in that most important experience of my career." So yeah, if they did a reunion, I would absolutely love to do it. He also added this, quote, "I think we should reboot it. I think it's hard, obviously, with everybody's scheduled to do an Office reboot, but I would so be down," he said.
Okay. I am down. I still watch The Office regularly on Netflix. It's still like my background. Chandler, do you still watch episodes of The Office, or are you not really into it?
When I was in Austin, that's all I watched. Yeah. Yeah.
It is the comfort. It is the entertainment comfort food of our time. It is the Netflix equivalent of ordering pizza. Here's what I mean. It's like, even if you already have dinner in the fridge, right? Even if there's a new prestige show that's just dying to be watched. If someone says, "Hey guys, you guys just kind of want to order pizza tonight," everyone is going to be like, yeah, let's just do that. That's easier. Yeah. That's what people say when they're like, "Hey, you guys just want to watch The Office?" It's the same thing. It is the comfort food of the streaming era. I think a reboot, even if it was disastrous and even if it didn't work at all, like the Arrested Development when they finally brought that back and it just didn't work, it would still be fun. Yeah. And the other point, and because I know we're deep into the show, but the other point, I appreciate that the cast largely seems to embrace their own roles in the show. A lot of people in Hollywood, when they move on from like an iconic role that is later seen as sort of beneath them, John Krasinski's now a filmmaker, an action hero. Steve Carell is, doing a lot of prestige acting work. Mindy Kaling is a big time star who's, is an incredible writer too. All of them don't act like their sitcom beginnings were beneath them. Yeah. Tyler, I'm sure this has happened to you in interviews where a publicist says, "Hey, listen, don't mention whatever thing this person is most famous for."
The one thing I want to ask them about.
Well, why else would I want to talk to him? You know what I mean? I've crossed that line, and I was just like, okay, I won't, and I did, and it backfired. And I've had people get angry at me, celebrities, but like, I'm glad to see them kind of embrace it. And kind of be like, you know what, the fans love it. It's a great show. Let's go ahead. If everybody's down, they'll do it. I appreciate that attitude, and I'm here for it. Even if it's lame, I'm here for it.
I mean, I will say after Michael left, it went downhill pretty hard. I definitely watched a few from that era, and I was like, I'm gonna go a little earlier.
The Millie Robert California era is painful, and I never even watched it.
Yeah, it really
Steve Carell will be critical. He would be absolutely critical to the reboot.
If you don't have Steve, you don't have a reboot. I do not. It's comfort food through about season 5.
Even Will Ferrell on the show. Like, Will Ferrell is funny in everything he's ever been in except for The Office.
the only scene that I will say this though. He's funny when Steve Carell is with him.
True. Yeah,
because I think it's a 2-episode arc or 3 or 4. I don't know that Steve Carell did.
Longer,
Yeah, it might have been 4 episodes, but like 2 of the episodes, was like, one was like Michael's Last Dundies. Yeah. That one worked because they were playing off each other, But the thing is, when Michael left, and we don't, it's funny, a little behind the scenes before this last one was like, all right, guys, we got to make this quick because we're running late. Now I'm sitting here ranting about it. But like when they started ranting about a show that hasn't been on 10 years, like when they started just interjecting cartoon characters into the show, like Robert California, like Will Ferrell's character, like Nellie, like people who would not exist in the real world, the show stopped working. Like the reason people liked it is because everyone worked with someone kind of like Andy, kind of like Dwight, kind of like Michael. But when you get like these weirdos, it's like, I've never met a human in my life like Robert California, much less have I worked in an office with him. Why? Makes no sense. Anyway, that's my rant. And do it. Reunite Office Cast.
All right, that'll do it for this week's.
It's the high list. The high list. It's just...
Stay tuned. When we come back, Passion's Kristian Stanfill joins us. You're listening to Raise a Hallelujah by Passion. To our next guest, Passion Music's Kristian Stanfill. Next week, Passion releases their new album, Roar, which was recorded live at Passion 2020. Passion is a movement founded by Louis and Shelley Giglio in 1995. Passion unites students in worship, prayer, and justice for spiritual awakening in this generation. Passion has ushered in the writing of some of the most recognizable and unforgettable worship anthems of this generation and is currently helmed by Kristian Stanfill, Brett Yonker, and Melody Malone. Chris Tomlin, Matt Redman, Crowder, Christy Nockels, Carrie Job, and others have also lent their voices alongside Passion throughout the years. I got to talk to Kristian earlier this week about the album and some of its breakout songs. So I did enjoy that. I'd never talked to Kristian before.
He's a good dude. I've talked to him a couple times.
He's a really, really nice guy. We had a good conversation. And the first thing, and I didn't know this actually going in, but he told me that they had this big New Year's Eve Passion conference. It was the highest attendance any Passion conference, 65,000 people. It was a huge conference.
In Atlanta.
And they weren't planning on doing anything with the music. That was not the intention was not to release an album. And I wanted to know about the process of what happened, how that came to be. So here's what he said.
I don't know if the plan was always to release a record. I don't think that was in the cards, set in stone or anything like that. I think we got through conference and realized that some really special stuff had been captured, some really significant moments from conference. And we had it all, recorded. We just basically hit record the whole time and caught everything. And when we started listening back, we thought, man, this has really got some special sauce on it, which feels really cool. I've been listening to the record and to me, it feels almost like maybe a little bit of a throwback Passion record. Instead of having 7 or 8 or 9, brand new songs on a record and just trying to push out as much new music as we can. It's more about the moments that were captured at conference and more about the individual things that God did at the conference. And I think when people listen back to the record, you're going to feel that, especially if you were there, you're going to relive these moments and remember how significant they were.
You know what's funny, Tyler, is I was yesterday on the site, we posted a video of Carrie Job and Cody Carnes joining Kristian and the Passion team. Crowder was on stage and they were performing the song Waymaker. And me and you do a lot of hunting for kind of content, and I like to throw some, if I find some good live music, I like to kind of feature it on the site or share it. I was so moved by the performance of that song and just how incredible it was. And you could really, I feel like, sense a really something special happening in that room that night.
And I think that's why, clearly they knew they had a good thing, and at some point you just have to stop fighting the impulse. So there's something cool here. And I was curious, and this is something we actually talked about quite a bit during our conversation, that tension that worship leaders must feel. And this is an interesting part of the process for me between you want to sing songs people know. You want the experience to be a really positive one for people who come to your shows. But Kristian's a songwriter, he wants to create new stuff. He wants to build, and I think we've all been at that experience in like a normal non-worship concert where the band's like, how about a new song? And everyone's kind of like, okay. we'll give you one or two, but then wrap it up and get back to the
LCD sound system show up and play the hits, or Daft Punk was at the
yeah. And that's even more complicated when you're a worship artist because people are singing along, and if they don't know the song, then you're really throwing a wrench into the expectations. So I wanted to ask them a little bit about that. How does they walk to that? How do they navigate that tension between wanting to make sure the audience knows what's going on and can join in with what they're doing, but also giving them some new things and offering them? And he had a lot of good thoughts about that.
That's the tension we felt with trying to introduce a bunch of new songs. And this year, Louis really led the charge on this and really led us to think this way. He was saying, hey, let's really focus on leading the people, and let's not go in trying to lead all our brand new stuff and try to get all these new songs out there. Let's release a few things before we get there, and then really stand in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in that moment and lead the people. And I really, I'm so grateful to Louis for leading us that way, because I think all of us would agree that's what happened at conference this year. Obviously, there's a benefit to putting out a bunch of new music, especially, like you said, being a worship band, being anchored in a church. We want to put out music that's helpful for the church and useful for people to sing. And so we definitely want to do that. And so we try to distill it down to these new songs that we were already singing at our church that felt like, well, they've already been super helpful for us. Let's put these out there. And then we can continue to release new music maybe as this year goes on.
Yeah, it is cool to see how that community there really fosters creativity, Yeah,
it is. And he went on to say, and I wanted to end on this one, that there is sort of this, and I think that it was this way for a while, where kind of all worship music sounded a little bit like pop era U2. And no, just I'm not pointing fingers at any one band or anything like that. It was the genre people expected, and it was the one everybody knew how to play, and that was sort of the expectation of what happened when you went into a church. This is what it's going to sound like, either U2 or Mumford and Sons. And he was really actually very encouraged and very excited about the fact that that's kind of changing, that there's a new, that he referenced a few of his colleagues, both at places like United and Young and Free, who are pushing the genre forward, both sonically and lyrically, to what can be considered a worship song in 2020. And he was really, really excited about that. Here are his thoughts about what could be next for the genre as a whole.
Personally, I think we're in a really exciting time creatively in the church. specifically just listening to Young and Free's new song, Best Friends. I don't know if you've heard that song, but it is such a fresh, it's so good. It's so good. I heard it, and just the language in it is very conversational at times, but so many people can resonate with that chorus. We're sick of pretending, we want the real thing. Like, come on. Like, that is so cool that we're in a day now where you can put that in a worship song. We're already talking about singing that song with our students at our church. A few years ago, I don't know if that could have happened. It seemed like the songs, sonically, lyrically, contextually, kind of had to be more down the middle for churches to grab it. But I really feel that we're in a good time where creativity and thinking outside of what we would normally think about is, while still holding on to truth, because that's the most important thing. And like you said, there are truths that we can't let go of and we can't abandon. Joel Houston, I think, is pushing all of us worship songwriters out into new territory with the lyrics that he's writing and the music that United is creating. And so I think we're in a really exciting time, creatively in the church. It might be a few years before it's embraced, widely, but I think there is a new wind blowing that's really exciting.
Well, I don't want to give too much away, Tyler, but if people like Hillsong Young and Free's Best Friends, which he referenced there, and I think we played on the podcast last week.
We did play it, last week.
I don't want to give too much away, but you may have just had a conversation with them about that song, which listeners can hear. We'll hear very soon.
Who can keep it straight?
Yeah.
We talked to so many people. I can't keep track of everybody I talked to. But it is possible.
And then I talked to Steve Carell and I was like, I'm just going to call you Michael Scott for the whole interview. And he freaked out on me. He freaked out.
He loved it. That was Passion Music's Kristian Stanfill. Next up, an update on my youth pastor transformation.
I don't know when you got taller. See our reflection in the water. Off a bridge at the Huntington. I hopped the fence when I was 17. And then I knew what I wanted.
That was Garden Song by Phoebe Bridgers. Okay, Jesse, you
I can take
caught
this
me
from
off
here.
guard.
Yeah.
You caught me off guard.
Well, we said on the Tuesday show that we would give some manner of update about Tyler's youth pastor makeover. So we had Brian Duss on from World Vision, and I think he proposed potentially using this as an opportunity to, because we're like, okay, we talked about on the pod a few weeks ago how willing people would be to donate to a good cause if Tyler underwent a youth pastor makeover. So I kind of floated that out there, and I just wanted to see if anybody said anything. We had someone on Tuesday who works at a charity organization, and there seems to be a lot of enthusiasm about this stunt in the nonprofit sector right now, Tyler. It is spreading like wildfire. I'm going to read a couple things that our listeners have said to try to encourage you to do this, Tyler. I can't make you. No one can make you. No one can make you shave a soul patch, frost those tips, and put on that Acquire the Fire tee. But Sarah said, this is an outfit piece, but to complete the youth pastor vibe, Tyler should go around fist bumping or high fiving everyone in any place as a form of greeting. I should clarify. We're talking about a 90s youth pastor makeover. Today's youth pastors, I think they're a little too cool. We're talking 90s youth pastors before all youth pastors became hipsters, right? And took office hours at an artisan coffee shop, right? That's kind of the youth pastor scene now.
We're talking the cargo shorts and bigger t-shirts with some sort of off-brand Christianized logo
that's tucked in. That's tucked into the cargo shorts or jean shorts with a braided belt. You guys get the idea. When youth pastors look more like Guy Fieri than they did
it's Guy Fieri. It's basically Guy Fieri vibes.
Yeah, now I feel like most youth pastors look like extras on Portlandia. They used to look like Guy Fieri. Okay, so that's the maker we're going to go. Allison said. that she would totally throw some coin over. Rodrigo said he would volunteer to support Tyler Huckabee in this, especially if you get weird facial hair. He just wants to know how he can support. Lena actually even shared the CDC's new guidelines about beards and the coronavirus, and how much of a risk having facial hair is when it comes to harboring germs. So you have that handy guide too, Tyler. All that to say is there's a lot of enthusiasm out there, and I think this is something you need to continue to consider, and we need to make this happen.
All right, so let's put Jesse. Let's put our heads together. I'll fill out. Let's put together. We're gonna need a few things. We're going to need, I think, some sort of tiered situation, for what different levels of fundraising can accomplish.
Okay. That's all right. That's what listeners' missions are. If they want to see this happen, your mission right now is to go on Twitter, hit us up at Relevant Podcast, and tell us what the tiers are. Right. So if we raise $1,000, obviously at that point, Tyler shaves the soul in the soul patch. If we raise 2,000, those tips get, I don't know if at what point tips are getting frosted. Go on Twitter, tell us what the tiers. We really want to raise some money for a good cause. So let us know what you think they should be, and we're gonna figure out a way to make this thing happen.
All right, that sounds good. Oh, and there was one real quick response. We did have one person in response to Jesse, you and I's conversation about worship leaders who play the drums from the back, who come up from behind, who aren't up front with a guitar, but they're behind the plexiglass cage.
I've never seen that.
That's what we're talking about. None of us have ever seen it.
There are some bands that's the case, but I've never seen that with worship leading though.
Well, that's what because we talked about Phil Collins last week, and then we talked about Under Oath, like Aaron Gillespie used to sing from drums. But we have never. It's not that churches aren't willing to invest in drums, okay? They erect ridiculous indoor snow globes.
Acoustically speaking, because of the enclosed little, soundproofing room, it's kind of impossible to have a vocal mic because it's just going to be picking up all the drums.
But
you know what I mean?
But it's a net benefit because those stupid drum cages are pointless. Chandler, how many concerts have you been to in your life? Let's just say it's over 500. Let's say it's over 500.
Sure. Yeah.
In all size rooms, right?
Yes.
How many church services have you been to? Let's say
more.
Hundreds. Yeah. In all size rooms. Okay. Have you ever been to a concert once?
That's a good question.
But you put on by people who professionally make sound that people pay to come here.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to a concert one time at any size room and seen a gigantic plexiglass drum cage?
No.
It's preposterous. They are pointless. They are not needed. Go to any club or bar in America and go to a live show and you're like, this sounds perfectly fine without it like this insane looking like dry terrarium on stage. It's pointless and dumb. It's a hexagonal terrarium. Just get rid of it. And then let the drummer sing. Let the drummer lead worship.
Another thing that they do at churches that I've never seen in a live venue is turn guitar amps around so that they're not pointed toward the crowd and then mic'd. Have you ever seen that?
Churches
that's kind of the same idea, but for a guitar player, where they don't want to be too loud, but they want to have control and be able to mic it.
Well, okay. Here's this is another observation. You guys know this is true. You guys know it's true. No one on this planet takes their job more seriously than a church sound guy. No one. Like you could have a CDC scientist. You could have a rocket engineer that has the lives of like astronauts in their hands. No one's taking their job more serious than a church sound guy. The more tape and measure it like rolls of tape and little flashlights and things that they have on their belt, the more the greater the distance, you better stay away from that sound booth on Sunday morning. Hey, guys, out of there. Like it's perfectly like the sanctuary is perfectly well lit and they use a tiny flashlight to look at every little thing on, it's like, dude, it's daylight outside and all the lights are on. I don't think we need the little flashlight to look at the knobs. Like I can tell you what the knobs, you have it turned to 6. Okay. Do you need the little flash? Like they got flashlights in their mouths. They're undoing tape. They're taping random things. There's like the other thing too is like church sound guys also love like putting pieces of like blue tape on stuff and then writing on the blue tape with a Sharpie, you know, keep off or this way up, or like, dude, I know that like the worship leader, the mic stands right there. They don't need a big X on the stage to tell them where to stand. They do this every week. You just take your job way too seriously.
They also have you go into church with you don't have Tame Impala on stage or anything. I'm not trying to besmirch your local, the teen worship group, the 19-year-old who's working on the guitar this morning for How Great Is Our God. But they have the console back there. It looks like something from Blade Runner 2049. It is for a church of 200 people. It is 5 feet across. I don't know what the plan is after the service, but it's glowing. It's like shiny. There's buttons on there that I could not even begin to tell you the purpose of. And who knows how the church, like at the opening budget, was like, okay, we're going to give, well, the worship band will be volunteers. The pastor, the children's church volunteers. We'll have to have everybody set up their own chair, pick up their own chairs at the end of the day, because we got to get the gym cleared out for basketball. And then let's say, we'll go $16,000 for the soundboard.
Is this the one they have at Madison Square Garden? Is this the one? Is this the soundboard they have? You know, like it costs more than anything in the church. The other thing about church sound guys, I've never seen one walk at a normal pace. If it's Sunday morning and their feet are moving, they aren't running, but they're almost running. Like everything they're attending to is almost an emergency. You know, like it could be like the guest speaker, you know, is taking a half a second too long to turn on their wireless mic, and that sound guy is sprinting across the sanctuary. And then he pulls out his little flashlight and he like switches on the button and then runs back to the booth. These guys operate at a different level. I think they ran out of stuff to do, and they're like, all right, well, I guess we'll just make gigantic drum cages that are used nowhere else on earth by no other musician in history. Anyway, Brian wrote, this is from a listener. I have led worship from an actual drum kit a number of times. I was on staff as a worship leader for about 2 years. And before I learned to play guitar, they hired him as a worship leader, knowing he was a singing drummer. That church is awesome. You should never learn guitar, Brian.
Wow. That church is awesome.
He said he'll find a picture.
Oh, man.
Please do provide a picture, Brian.
That's great.
That's very exciting to me, because I do want to see this, and I'm impressed and surprised, and I don't quite believe it. But Brian, if you're a man of your word, I want to see that video, because that sounds very difficult, especially when you're trying to do the slower songs.
Yeah.
The, like slowed down numbers that just have a white little,
especially the songs where it's mainly just cymbal work, like
swells and stuff.
And you're still singing back there.
You're still singing.
Every now and then the triangle or the cymbals again.
You know those where they just occasionally, like, it's not really a song. It's just like weird tones coming from the keyboard, and occasionally a drummer will just go on the floor top and go, you know, it's like, oh, wow, I get the vibe he's going for. Okay, one last question before I stop ranting, and then I'll stop ranting about church sound guys. Okay, what percentage chance, if you are a Christian, okay, and you wear your cell phone on a belt clip, what percentage chance that you have volunteered to be on the sound team at a church?
I'd say 90%.
If you wear, tell me I'm wrong.
Or you're auditioning. You're trying to get the pastor's attention. Be like, oh, that guy should be on the
he's got a cell phone belt clip. I mean, he's like, it's got the thing in a hole. He probably gets a lot of important calls. Why else would he have it on a belt clip?
Either that or church security. I feel like that person.
Yeah, you want some authority. If you have a cell phone belt clip, you want authority. That's just how it is. Yeah. Like whether you want to be the and the other thing about sound guys is they are the only person in the church who is allowed to always be rude. You know, like, hey, can I get that up a little in a second? Don't touch it. You know, they're the only guy in the whole church that, you know, the fruit of the spirit don't apply to him. Gentleness, kindness, self-control. If you're the sound guy, don't worry about those fruits. Okay.
And they talk about it afterwards.
Watch the cord.
They talk about it in the meetings. Like, you know, Steve, he's his own guy, but he does good work.
Yeah.
He's passionate.
Dulcet, he's passionate.
You see him like winding cables, and he's giving like a death stare to the guitar player who, like, you know, he plugged the wrong one in. Yeah, it's the red. It's like, Steve, we have an hour to the service. It's not red cable. You know what? I'm going to go get the blue tape. I'm going to make a note on a Sharpie and tape it right to the stage so you see it, you know? So we got it, Steve. Your little notes are everywhere.
I remember this is going long now, but we're here. I was helping, volunteering, of course, at a conference that this is back when he's no longer with us, but Brendan Manning was speaking there at this conference.
Oh, yeah.
And he was very old at the time, very elderly guy. And he was given, and it was just what we're talking about. The guy who ran sound was, of course, and people talked about him too. Like, oh, he's run sound for everybody, like Apple keynote type stuff.
Hey,
I don't
listen,
know. Like
before he was saved, he ran sound at a Journey concert once. Okay,
right.
So
you name it, and it was he took this conference extremely seriously. Spent all day long. Like, you wake up, he's already in there, just running cables back and forth, walking around, like snapping, doing the thing where he's testing it all out.
Yeah.
So he gives Brendan Manning a wireless mic that clips to his shirt.
Yeah.
Brendan Manning, very famously, kind of an ascetic, doesn't own a lot. I'm sure this cost more than his entire wardrobe, possibly all of his possessions combined. Yeah. And Brendan Manning wanted to play a song for us that he only had, and this was not cleared with anybody. When he spoke that evening, wanted to play a song that he only had on an old tape recorder, an old cassette tape. He put the cassette in the tape player, set it down on his podium, pulled off his mic, and put it on top of the tape player and just pressed play. And I looked over, and in Airplane, when they're trying to land the plane and he's dripping sweat off of his leg, that is what I saw from the soundboard. That he had just been hosed down.
So the mic's not supposed to be handled like that. That's all I'm saying. It's not supposed to be handled like that. You're not supposed to touch it there. You got a filter on it. Do not. Well, why is every church sound guy, the Dwight Schrute of their office? You know what I mean? There's a proper way to touch it, the microphone, and that is the improper way.
All right, we got to wrap it up here before we're already. We've already gone well over. Thanks for staying with us, everybody, and thanks to Passion for joining us. Roar comes out next week, March 6th. The album's called Roar. Also, thanks to BetterHelp for sponsoring us. Go to BetterHelp.com/relevant. Fill out the questionnaire to help them assess your needs and get matched with a counselor you'll love. It's BetterHelp.com/relevant. Also, hey, as long as you're on our Apple Podcast page, subscribe to Relevant Daily. That's where we bring you Monday through Friday the top 3 stories at the intersection of faith and culture every single workday. With that, we'll wrap it up. I'm Tyler Huckabee.
I'm Chandler String.
I'm Jesse Carey.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Tuesday.
Hey, did you stand on the sidelines? I didn't show up. How did you sleep so long? How many hours your doubt was on? And while we're waiting in our house slippers and read about the war.
Thank you for listening to the Relevant Podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to leave us a review on iTunes. Check out other shows from the Relevant Podcast Network in the podcast section at relevantmagazine.com. And while you're there, browse exclusive podcast merchandise at our online store. Make sure to subscribe to Relevant Magazine. Info is available at relevantmagazine.com/subscribe.
Hey, guys, out of there.
Relevant Podcast Network.